Hello everyone, welcome to the session. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting chapter from grade 9 CBSE. The name of the chapter is The Little Girl by Catherine Mansfield. As the title suggests, the little girl refers to the main character of the story who goes by the name Kezia. Moreover, the main theme of the story is the relationship between parents and their children. Also, the writer Catherine Mansfield wishes to tell us that children share a very deep bond of love with their parents. Even though young children do not feel their parents' love and care for them because they are strict, and to them, many of their parents' actions appears unfair. Besides, when children grow up, they realize that all the acts of their parents were favorable for them. In addition, all along the parents were afraid for them. And below their strictness lies a heart full of love for them. Most importantly, this bond of love between parents and their children has been underlined through the little girl's summary. So let's understand this very interesting chapter in detail. The story begins by introducing a little girl. Her father is someone that the little girl dreads of. He is someone who scares the little girl. It is evident that she considers him as someone to be avoided as well. Every morning before going to work, he comes into her room and gives her a casual kiss on forehead. And then the young girl responds to the kiss with the message, "Goodbye, father." The little girl is actually relieved when her father leaves the house. In fact, the little girl heaves a sign of relief as she hears the sound of her father's carriage. It's a vehicle that's mostly drawn by horses, so as the carriage leaves from the house. So when the little girl's father sits in the drawing room ordering everyone for something or the other, she stands by the staircase witnessing everything. She is scared to go near him because he looks terrifying. The little girl's name is finally revealed as Kezia as her mother calls her out. In the evening, her mother asks Kezia, "Come down the stairs and help your father to take off his boots." She walks in slow pace and opens the door of the drawing room. She's even more terrified when he puts on his specs and looks at her closely. He is already impatient and therefore asks Kezia to hurry up and take his boots outside. He again repeats the phrase of being a good girl to her. He asks her if she had been a good girl that day. Kezia, who is already scared, starts stuttering when you have difficulty in speaking. Her father immediately retorts to poking fun at her and imitates her stutter. He also threatens that if she continues to stutter, he would have her mother take her to a doctor. Rather than trying to understand that he scares Kezia, her father only tries to terrify her more. So she usually never stuttered with other people. But she stuttered quite often when she had to converse with her father. usually when people are self-conscious about what they are speaking or to whom they are speaking, they tend to stutter. Kezia had the desperate need to always be right in front of her father. Looking for perfection can cause imperfections. So when her father sees that she looks nervous, he does not call her over and ask her what's wrong. Instead, he raises his voice asking her what was wrong. He asks her what makes her look wretched, in a bad form. He also blames his wife for not bringing up Kezia well. She even paints a picture of her father as a giant figure who yawns. She had a very kind and caring grandmother who encouraged her to maintain a rapport with the family. In fact, her grandmother urges her to go down to the drawing room on Sunday afternoons to have a real conversation with her parents. So when Kezia goes down to the drawing room to talk to her parents, all that she could see is her father resting on the sofa and have his face covered with a handkerchief. He also rests his feet on a soft cushion. Kezia's mother also sat there, immersed in reading a book. Kezia feels that it would be, odd to disturb her father who is in a deep sleep and is literally snoring loudly. Whenever he wakes up and finds Kezia staring at him, he instructs her that she must not stare so. He makes fun of her that she looks like a little brown owl, as owls have huge eyes that constantly look like they're staring. So one day, Kezia falls sick and she catches a cold and stays indoors. Her grandmother gives her an idea to make a gift for her father, since his birthday was approaching the next week. Her grandmother asks her to make a pincushion out of a beautiful piece of yellow silk. A pincushion is generally a stuffed cushion in which needles are stuck to arrange it easily. So she decided to make a pincushion just like her grandmother had instructed her. Kezia made the outer layer of pincushion with a satin cloth her grandmother gave. But she was so confused about what to fill it up with. Something goes in the cushion. So she goes in search for an appropriate thing to fill to her mother's room. Kezia could not take help from her granny as she was in the garden. So she finds many sheets of paper on the bedside in her parents' room. She considers as scraps, and she is just a little girl who does not know the importance of such sheets. She happily picks them, tears them, and fills them in the cushion and sews it up. That night, Kezia heard cries and sound from downstairs as her father's speech papers for the Port Authority were missing. Every member in the house took to searching it in all the rooms available. Every servant was questioned. Finally, the mother comes into Kezia's room. She has no idea of her daughter's little surprise and asks her very hesitantly if she had seen the papers. Kezia is in fact proud and happy about it, as little didn't know the consequences of her action. Her mother gets shocked beyond belief that she orders Kezia to come downstairs and admit her mistake immediately. Little Kezia was dragged down by her mother as soon as she confessed of having torn the papers. Her father, who was already a hot-headed person, was very angry with the papers missing. He was walking to and fro in a fast pace with a serious face. He asks Kezia if it was true. She is not able to bring herself to admit the question and therefore blurts out a nervous no. So he asks his wife to take Kezia away to her bedroom, as he can no longer stand her presence. She lay in her bedroom crying and all by herself. It was evening, and even the little light that peeped into the shadowed room seemed to reflect like a sad face on the floor. All of a sudden, her father enters the room angrily and threatens to beat her with a ruler as a punishment for her action. Although Kezia tries to explain that it was for making his surprise gift for his birthday, he brings down the ruler onto her pink little hands. Kezia's father had hit her with a ruler without even caring to listen to her. She lay there crying and pondering that what was her mistake. As usual, her grandmother stays up consoling her. She wrapped Kezia up in a warm shawl and rocked her in the rocking chair. Kezia, who was only scared of her father's presence until a while ago, slowly started hating him. She questions as to why God had to make a character called Father. Kezia had lived all her life under the impression that all fathers are scary and rude. But an incident from her neighborhood changed this perception. Her neighbors were a family called the McDonalds. The couple had 5 children in total. Yes, 5. Kezia looks at their house from a small gap in the fence. She sees them living happily in each other's company. They do not have a strict atmosphere like in her home. In fact, they play tag in the evening, thereby spending time with each other and having fun at the same time. So tag is basically a game where people form a group and try to catch or tag the other person by touching them. The father-children relationship was totally different from what she had seen or experienced. Kezia realized that day that all fathers were not the same. In fact, the father had the baby mouse sitting on his shoulders and 2 little girls hanging on to his coat pockets. That's how they played. Suddenly, Kezia's mother fell ill one day and her grandmother had to take her to the hospital. So Kezia was left all alone in the house with her cook Alice. Alice puts her to bed and Kezia is frightened to be all alone as she's not used to it. She's scared of being alone in the night. She usually gets nightmares, that's an unpleasant dream. So Kezia tells Alice that she finds it difficult to stay inside a dark room. Kezia also says that the darkness makes it appear as though someone is whispering. Although Kezia tried sleeping, but the same old nightmare came back to her. In it, she saw a butcher, a person who cuts or sells meat, with a knife and a rope, approaching her, bearing an evil smile. She calls out for her grandma as she is the only one who could comfort her. But instead, she sees her father standing by her bedside, holding a candle. Her father understands the situation and blows out the candle to carry her down the passage to his room. It was a big room with a newspaper on the bed. He throws the newspaper away to put her in the bed. He carefully tucks her up in the bed. He lies down beside her, thereby protecting her. Kezia lay there feeling his warmth and trying to get over the butcher's smile, just out of her mind. She rested her head on his arm and held on to his shirt tightly. He also asks her to put her feet close up to him so that they get really warm. His fatherly love is expressed when he does so. And she lay there and looked at him. A funny feeling creeps in. She realizes that her father is not a bad person after all. He was just big in physical stature but had a warm heart. He in fact had no one to look after him. He was the breadwinner and had to work really hard for the betterment of the family. Since she had put her head close to his heart, she says that he has got a big heart, which indirectly states that he is indeed a kind-hearted person. So make sure that you also respect and love your parents. So that's all about the chapter. I hope you've understood it. So if you like the video, please make sure you do like, share and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye-bye.